What if the silence in your bedroom isn't about age, but about something no one ever told you? I want you to picture a man named Harold. He was 72, newly retired, recently divorced, and for the first time in years, he met someone who made him feel alive again. They laughed, they connected, and one evening they tried to be close. But his body didn't respond. He froze. She pulled away gently and Harold never reached for her again. Not because he didn't care, but because deep down he believed something in him had broken. I'm Dr. Samuel Reed, a men's health specialist who has spent over 30 years helping older men rediscover intimacy, rebuild confidence, and protect their emotional and physical well-being. The truth is, most men were never taught what aging does not just to the body, but to connection, desire, and self-worth. And sadly, they blame themselves for things that are completely normal and completely fixable. Today, I'm going to share 5 powerful truths that older men wish they'd known sooner. If any part of this feels familiar, I invite you to stay with me. And if you're here, truly here, type 1 in the comments to let me know. You're not alone. Let's begin. The first truth is one that quietly breaks more confidence than any other. Secret 1: spontaneity is not the goal. Connection is. When you were younger, intimacy was effortless. It didn't require much thought. Your energy, your body, your confidence, they all worked in harmony without you even realizing it. There was a thrill in the spontaneity, a pride in being ready at any time in any place. And for many men, that ability to respond instantly became part of how they defined themselves, not just as partners, but as men. But as the years go by, something begins to shift. Quietly, without warning, you might find that what once came naturally now requires more thought, more care. And when that moment catches you off guard, it can feel like a betrayal. Not by your partner, but by your own body. I've met many men who walked into my office, not because they were ill, but because something inside them felt broken after one difficult night. Their bodies didn't respond, and instead of reaching for understanding, they reached for shame. They told themselves, "I'm not who I used to be." And that hurt deeper than any diagnosis. I remember one man in particular. His name was Harold, 68 years old. Warm smile, still active, full of life. He had recently met someone special after years of being alone. But when the night turned intimate, he wasn't ready. Not physically, not emotionally. He hadn't thought he needed to be. He had counted on instinct. And when it didn't happen the way he expected, he panicked. He made an excuse and disappeared from her life. Not because he didn't care, but because he was embarrassed. It felt like I lost part of myself that night, he told me. Like something important had quietly slipped away. But here's what I told Harold and what I want to tell you. That moment wasn't a loss. It was an invitation. A chance to stop measuring yourself by old standards and begin embracing a new, wiser approach to intimacy. Because what worked at 30 was biology, but what works now after 60, after 70, is built on something far deeper: connection, communication, and care. Letting go of spontaneity isn't the end of romance. It's the beginning of something richer, something more thoughtful, something truly lasting. Planning for intimacy doesn't make it less special, it makes it more meaningful. It gives you time to prepare your body to reduce stress, to avoid medications that might interfere, and most importantly, to be present with your partner. It removes the pressure of performance and replaces it with presence, with truly being there. And when you do that, something remarkable happens. The anxiety disappears, the fear fades. What's left is intimacy in its most powerful form: connection, rooted in trust, safety, and love. But ignoring this shift, pretending that nothing has changed, can come with serious consequences. I've seen too many men push their bodies too hard, too fast, all to prove that they still have it. Some end up in emergency rooms. Others suffer strokes, heart episodes, or dangerously low blood pressure, all because they were too proud to slow down and adapt. I've spoken to widows whose husbands passed away during intimacy, not because of illness, but because no one ever told them that sex, like any physical activity, requires respect and preparation at this stage of life. And I've seen men quietly suffering, afraid to ask questions, ashamed to say out loud what they've been feeling. But it doesn't have to be this way. Once you begin to see intimacy as something worth preparing for, everything begins to shift. You stop clinging to who you were and begin embracing who you are. Not weaker, not less, but wiser, more grounded, more capable of creating a connection that truly matters. So if you've been feeling disconnected or discouraged, if you've started to wonder whether that part of your life is over, I want you to know it's not. It's simply time to approach it differently, with intention, with honesty, with care. And when you do, not only does intimacy return, it deepens. It becomes something far more beautiful than it ever was in your youth. Let go of the old script. You're not trying to be the man you once were. You're becoming the man you were always meant to be, one who leads with wisdom, courage, and the quiet strength of someone who knows that real intimacy isn't about performance. It's about presence. And now that you understand that it's time to pay attention to something even more urgent, because sometimes what's happening in the bedroom is your body's way of sending you a warning about your heart, and ignoring that signal could cost you everything. Secret 2. When the body whispers, listen to your heart. Let me share something that most older men were never told, and I wish they had been. If you're over 60 and noticing changes in your ability to get or keep an erection, that moment isn't just about your sex life. It's a quiet message from your body, one you can't afford to ignore. You see, many men treat erectile issues like a private embarrassment, a sign of aging they should hide or laugh off. But what they don't realize is this: an erection is not just a response to desire, it's one of the most sensitive indicators of how well your heart and blood vessels are working. I remember a patient named Carl, 67, happily married and still teaching part-time. He came into my office with a shrug and a smile saying, "Things just aren't the same lately, Doc. Probably just old age catching up with me, huh?" But something about his tone made me dig deeper. I ran a few tests, nothing alarming at first glance, but I trusted my gut and ordered a full heart scan. 3 weeks later, Carl was in the hospital getting a stent placed in a 90% blocked artery, the kind they call the widowmaker. That night from his hospital bed, he told me I came in thinking I had a bedroom problem. Turns out I had a time bomb ticking in my chest. That moment stayed with me. Because the truth is, the arteries in the penis are smaller than the ones that feed your heart and brain. If something's clogging them, that same problem is almost certainly affecting the rest of your body too, only bigger, more dangerously. In fact, erectile dysfunction is often the very first sign of heart disease. Before the chest pains, before the stroke, before the heart attack, it's the body's whisper. And if you ignore that whisper, it can turn into a scream when it's too late. I've seen too many men brush it off, pop over-the-counter pills, or blame it on stress or fatigue. Meanwhile, they're walking around with undiagnosed hypertension, diabetes, or cholesterol so high, it's choking their arteries. They don't find out until they collapse on the golf course or wake up one day and can't move one side of their body. And beyond the physical risk, there's something even more painful: the emotional cost. When a man starts losing confidence in his body, he often pulls away from the woman who loves him. Not because he doesn't care, but because he's ashamed. He fears disappointment. He fears becoming invisible. But it doesn't have to be that way. You are not powerless here. In fact, you have more control than you realize. If you begin to see these changes not as a weakness, but as a signal, you can act early and wisely. You can get your heart checked. You can talk to your doctor. You can start making changes that not only improve intimacy, but add years, good, healthy years to your life. You'd be amazed how many men in their 70s and even 80s tell me they feel younger, stronger, more connected than they did in their 50s. Not because of some miracle cure, but because they paid attention, because they listened. So if you've noticed a difference in your performance, don't retreat, don't stay silent, and please don't be embarrassed, be smart. One open conversation with your doctor could lead to 10 more years of shared birthdays, anniversaries, laughter, and love. That is worth everything. And here's the best part. When you treat the root cause, whether it's blood flow, hormones, or even unresolved stress, things often improve. Not just physically, but emotionally too. Because the truth is, intimacy is never just about the body. There's a deeper layer that's rarely talked about. One that lives in memory, emotion, trust. And when that part is missing, sex becomes something mechanical, disconnected, and sometimes even painful. In the next secret, I want to talk to you about that emotional layer, the one that's just as vital as anything in your bloodstream. Because without it, even the strongest body can feel empty, and restoring it might just restore something beautiful you thought was lost. Stay with me. What comes next may surprise you. Secret 3. Intimacy heals even now. Think back, if you can, to a moment in your life when someone's touch made you feel truly alive. Not just aroused but understood. Not just wanted but seen. For many men, those moments grow fewer with age. Life changes. We lose people. Our roles shift. Our bodies change. And somewhere along the way, the emotional layer of intimacy, the one that matters most, starts to fade. But here's what I want you to remember: after 60, intimacy is not less important. It's more important than ever. Because at this stage of life, intimacy becomes something deeper. It becomes medicine, not just for your body, but for your heart and soul. I've spoken with many older men who seem from the outside to have everything together. They've worked hard, raised families, built businesses, made it through loss. But when they sit in my office, their voices soften, their shoulders drop, and they say things like, "I haven't felt close to anyone in years." What they're really saying is, "I'm lonely." And not for sex alone. They're starving for connection, for warmth, for a moment of touch that means something. One man, Robert, 74, came to see me not for any medical complaint, but because he felt like a part of him had gone silent. His wife had passed 5 years earlier. Since then, he'd kept to himself, telling himself that intimacy was for younger men. At this age, he said, "What's the point?" But his eyes told another story. He missed the laughter, the hand on his back, the gentle moments at night that once made life feel rich. And over time, that emotional distance became more than sadness. It became real illness, insomnia, rising blood pressure, even depression that no medication could touch. What Robert didn't know, and what so many men are never told, is that intimacy isn't just something you outgrow. It's a vital part of your emotional and physical well-being. When we experience closeness, whether it's through a warm hug, a loving touch, or deep conversation, our bodies respond. We release oxytocin, dopamine, serotonin. These aren't just feel-good chemicals. They regulate your mood. They lower stress. They help you sleep. They even strengthen your immune system and protect your heart. So when intimacy disappears, the loss isn't just emotional. It's physical, tangible, measurable. Yet so many men pull away. They tell themselves that vulnerability is weakness, that expressing need is shameful, that they should be strong and independent. And in doing so, they build walls. They stop reaching out. They stop being touched. They tell themselves they're fine even as their health declines and their spirit dims. I've seen it again and again. Men aging 10 years in half the time because they had no one to hold, no one to talk to, no one to share their lives with in the most human of ways. Let me be clear, this isn't just about being in a relationship. Some men live with a partner but haven't truly connected in decades. Others live alone but have found beautiful, nourishing connection through friends, through meaningful conversations, or through allowing themselves to feel again. It's not about marital status, it's about emotional presence. And without that presence, you're running on empty even if you don't know it yet. So if you've been telling yourself that affection doesn't matter anymore, if you've stopped reaching for a hand or leaning into a hug or letting yourself be touched, I want you to pause. Because that disconnection, quiet as it is, may be taking more from your health than you realize. But the good news, it's never too late to come back to life. One honest conversation, one brave moment of closeness, one decision to lean in instead of pulling away, that's all it takes to begin again. Whether it's holding your spouse's hand with intention, allowing yourself to cry when something touches you deeply, or simply admitting that you miss being close to someone, these are not weaknesses. These are signs that your heart is still open, that you're still alive. And if you're wondering whether intimacy can still be meaningful, powerful, joyful, even after all these years, I'm here to tell you it absolutely can. In fact, the most beautiful intimacy I've witnessed in my patients often happens later in life, because by then the games are gone. The ego fades. What's left is honesty, tenderness, a kind of love that doesn't perform, it connects. But before you can feel that kind of connection, you have to face something quietly stealing it from you. It's not aging. It's not illness. It's something far more subtle, something you carry with you that you turn to in private thinking it's harmless. In the next secret, I'll show you how that one habit often done in silence could be the very thing destroying your ability to feel, to connect, and to be truly satisfied. You won't want to miss it. Secret 4. What you watch shapes what you feel. There's something many men never speak about yet quietly turn to, especially in moments of loneliness, restlessness, or when they simply want to feel something again. It's private, it's easy, and for a while it feels like a harmless escape. I'm talking about pornography. But what I've seen over 3 decades of working with older men is this: it's not harmless. In fact, it's one of the most powerful silent forces eroding confidence, connection, and real intimacy in later life. As the body changes, with arousal becoming slower, recovery taking longer, and performance feeling less predictable, many men begin to retreat, not just from their partners, but from themselves. They stop initiating touch. They stop asking for affection, and little by little, they trade human connection for pixels. What starts as a distraction becomes a replacement, a habit, a coping mechanism, and that's when the real damage begins. I'll never forget Malcolm, a 71-year-old retired mechanic, tough as nails, proud of his independence. He came in for a routine checkup, but halfway through our conversation, something in his voice cracked. He hadn't been intimate with his wife in nearly 4 years. "We just drifted," he said, but that wasn't the full story. Malcolm had slowly replaced physical connection with online content. It had started as curiosity, then became routine. Over time, he found himself comparing what he saw on a screen, airbrushed bodies, exaggerated sounds, choreographed scenes, to the real-life warm-blooded woman who had loved him for decades. And something changed. Her touch no longer stirred him. Her presence, once comforting, now felt distant. She eventually stopped reaching out, and he, without realizing it, let the distance grow. That's the quiet cost of pornography in later life. It's not just what you see, it's what you stop feeling. Your brain adapts to artificial stimulation, always new, always intense, always perfect. And when reality doesn't match that scripted fantasy, it feels flat. Your dopamine receptors, overstimulated by endless novelty, stop responding to gentle touch, to real voices, to the slow build of human intimacy. Suddenly, arousal becomes difficult without visual triggers. Some men find they can't finish without it. Others report complete loss of interest. And underneath all of it lies a deeper ache, one of isolation, of confusion, of wondering quietly, "What's wrong with me?" But the truth is, it's not just you. This is what happens when the brain over time is taught to expect fantasy instead of connection. It's a gradual rewiring that steals not only your desire, but your confidence, your presence, and your sense of self. And it doesn't stop there. I've seen marriages fall apart not because of cheating, but because of years of digital silence. I've seen men withdraw, not out of anger, but out of shame. They no longer feel capable. They no longer trust themselves, and they tell no one. They suffer in quiet guilt, believing they're alone in their struggle. But let me tell you this, you're not alone. And there is a way back. The first step is understanding that what you consume affects more than your arousal. It affects your expectations. It shapes what you believe intimacy should look like. But real intimacy isn't about performance or perfection. It's about presence. It's about patience. It's about touch that might be imperfect, laughter that comes with wrinkles, moments that are quiet and real. That's the kind of connection that actually feeds your spirit, not drains it. Letting go of pornography, especially after years of reliance, isn't easy. It takes courage. It takes self-forgiveness. Sometimes it takes support from a therapist, a friend, or your partner. But what's waiting on the other side is worth it: a sense of renewal, the return of natural desire, the possibility of laughter in bed again, and the quiet but powerful feeling of being fully alive with someone who sees you, not through a screen, but through love. If you've been caught in that cycle of emptiness, if you found yourself feeling more disconnected than fulfilled, I want you to pause. Ask yourself gently, am I still capable of feeling something real? The answer is yes. Every day you can choose presence over illusion. You can reconnect with your own body, with someone you love, or even with a new kind of closeness you didn't know was possible at this stage of life. But while emotional disconnection chips away at intimacy, slowly the final secret is about something that can shatter it in a single moment. A dangerous mistake in timing, a decision made in pride, not wisdom. One that has cost men their health, their relationships, and in the worst cases, their lives. In the last secret, I'll show you how to avoid that silent but deadly misstep. Don't miss it. Secret 5. You don't need to prove anything. There's a moment that catches many older men off guard. It doesn't come with warning. It arrives quietly wrapped in pride and possibility. Maybe it's after a great checkup at the doctor. Maybe it's when a friend says, "You've still got it." Or maybe it's when a new romantic spark reignites something that's been asleep for years. And in that moment, you feel it. Energy, boldness, the urge to show that time hasn't taken the best of you. But here's the truth I've learned watching men make this mistake again and again. That's the moment when you're at the greatest risk. Not because desire's wrong, but because trying to prove something can cost you everything. I've seen it far too often. Men in their 60s, 70s, even 80s who decide to go for it like they're 30 again. They skip their heart medication. They drink a little too much. They take an enhancement pill from the gas station. And they walk into the bedroom not as a partner, but as a performer. Inside, their heart is racing. Their breathing is shallow. Their body, which needed time and care, is being pushed into something it's not prepared for. What was meant to be a night of passion becomes a moment of strain, sometimes even danger. I'll never forget Thomas, a 74-year-old former pilot. Sharp mind, strong presence, recently dating a younger woman who made him feel alive again. He came into my office with a grin and said, "Doc, I've got to keep up." I smiled back, but I warned him gently that sex at this stage of life is a full-body event. It's exercise, it's effort, and it requires preparation, not pride. He laughed and said, "I know my limits." 2 weeks later, Thomas collapsed in a hotel room, cardiac arrest. His partner called for help, but by the time the ambulance arrived, it was too late. It wasn't because he wasn't strong. It was because he forgot that strength at this age looks different. It looks like wisdom, like pacing, like listening to your body, not overriding it. The real danger isn't in wanting intimacy. The danger is in ignoring what your body's trying to tell you. When you make sex a test of your masculinity, when it becomes about proving instead of connecting you, put pressure on your heart, your mind, and your relationship. You treat your partner like a stage. You treat yourself like a symbol. And in doing so, you lose what intimacy was meant to be, a moment of presence, not performance. Many older men fear they're no longer desirable, that they've lost their strength, their edge. And that fear leads to choices made in silence, risky choices, desperate ones. But here's what I want you to hear. You don't have to prove anything to anyone. Not anymore. You've already lived. You've already earned respect, weathered storms, held people through loss, built legacies with your hands and your heart. Your value is not in how hard you go or how long you last. It's in how deeply you connect, how honestly you show up, how kindly you treat the moment in yourself. Slowing down isn't weakness, it's wisdom. Taking your time isn't retreat, it's power. The most courageous thing a man can do in his later years isn't to fight aging, but to dance with it, to make peace with change, to honor what still works with care instead of punishment. So if you ever find yourself feeling the need to prove you've still got it, I ask you to pause, breathe. Ask yourself, am I reaching for connection or am I trying to outrun fear? Is this about love or is this about ego? Because the truth is what you choose in that moment could mean everything. You can choose pressure and risk, losing your health, your partner's trust, your peace, or you can choose presence. You can create something lasting, something that doesn't just feel good in the moment, but stays with you long after. And if that choice feels scary, then good, let it. Because this isn't just about sex. This is about staying alive to enjoy all the years still waiting for you. It's about not becoming another silent story told too late. It's about honoring your life, not proving it. Now that you've heard all 5 truths, what they are, what they cost, and how quietly they've shaped the lives of so many men, I hope something in you feels different. Because it's not just about learning, it's about living differently from this moment forward. Maybe you saw yourself in these stories. Maybe you've carried shame, silence, or quiet fear for longer than you care to admit. But today you heard something that reminded you you're not alone, and more importantly, you're not done. You still have so much more to give, to feel, and to experience. So take that next step. Talk to someone. Reflect with your partner. Speak with your doctor. Reconnect with yourself and those you care about. This stage of life isn't about fading. It's about becoming fuller, braver, more present than ever before. If any part of this resonated with you, type "still here" in the comments. I'd be honored to know you're walking this journey with me. And if you'd like more honest, empowering conversations like this, feel free to subscribe. No pressure, just support when you're ready for it. Your next chapter can be richer than you ever imagined. In the next video, we'll explore one simple habit that brings both physical vitality and emotional closeness back into your everyday life. Until then, stay strong, stay open, and stay true to yourself.